Okay, hello and good morning everybody. Thank you very much for attending this session today, and this is a panel session on arts-rich schools. First of all, a big thank you to Birmingham Education Partnerships for hosting the conference in the first place, and for doing such great work for children and young people in Birmingham, and particularly thanks for supporting arts and culture really, and recognising that arts and culture can make such a difference in the lives of children and young people. As you'll probably appreciate, we're experiencing some particular challenges with arts and culture today in society, not least because of a lack of investment and also a lack of recognition of the value that arts and culture can have within improving our society and dealing with some of the problems that we face. And I think it's fair to say that young people and the poor probably have the most to lose, and maybe most to gain as well, as they contend with the economic and social hardships resulting from the pandemic, and a kind of pervasive national rhetoric which is about taking back control, which arguably is quite divisive and points to the survival of the fittest mentality. So it's within this context that we're asking the question, what does being an arts-rich school mean? Now, I think there are three groupings of people that are instrumental in providing an answer to this question, and they are the schools themselves, the school leaders and the teachers in schools. They're the cultural providers and artists out there who are working and producing, and they're also the children and young people as well. And by extension of all three, we have all our communities that are involved in this too. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to hear from the panelists who are going to introduce themselves, and they're going to tell us a little bit about how they feel about arts-rich schools, maybe offer some experiences from their time in school. And then we'll have some opportunity to discuss some of the things coming up, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to field some questions from you, the audience, as well. And it's really important that as we go through this session that you as an audience continue to put in your comments and your questions, because we'll be using these to inform some of the questions that we deal with as we develop Birmingham Arts School. And of course, this session is about welcoming you to Birmingham Arts School and providing you an opportunity to know who we are and to connect with us in the future and share in our journey to provide a high quality cultural entitlement for all children in Birmingham. By the end of the session, I hope that you'll have benefited from the opportunity, albeit a brief one, to consider your current view of the role that arts can have within school, and maybe even within your own life, and find new motivations to improve your education offer, which will ultimately benefit yourselves, your staff, your children and your communities. So my name is Felix Pepler. I'm the principal of the newly formed Birmingham Arts School. It's a very ambitious programme, and the Art School is funded and tasked to bring schools and cultural organisations together in a bid to utilise arts and culture to improve education outcomes for children and education providers throughout the city. And we've got 3 years initially to demonstrate our impact, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity really to prove that arts and culture must be at the heart of education, and that for education to be at the heart of arts and culture as well. I'm also a director for Council for Learning Outside the Classroom and an Arts Award moderator for Trinity College. Now, having attended a school myself with little appreciation of the value of arts in education, it's become my life's aim to ensure that other children don't suffer a similar fate and similar lack of opportunity. And this is one of my personal guiding inspirations, and what I feel is important today is I chair this panel conversations. So I think without further ado, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about an arts-rich school or their experience of arts in school. And Mr. Allen, can I start with you, please, to introduce yourself? About three or 4 minutes, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mr. Ordon Allen. I think I'll just start with, as a young person, I went to a school called Shenley Court, which was a performing arts academy. I was a very challenging young person in school. However, what kept me in school and kept me interested was the fact that I was able to be involved in theatre. I was able to be involved in music. And this kind of gave me a focus point to stay in school and focus on my other subjects. And I managed to finish school because of that. I had a love for arts. I'm an artist now. I'm a creative facilitator. I practice music and lyrics. And I currently work in Aston Manor School, which also had an issue with especially the boys and them being very, very challenging. So I came in as a music role model. The post was meant to be for 3 weeks to just work with young people, making beats, doing lyrics, performances. The school saw the benefit that it had on these young people, and that 3-week post turned into 8 years. I've been at the school for 8 years now. I also work with various other music and arts organizations that get involved in schools. And especially due to what's been happening lately with all the cuts and all the arts cuts that have been happening in schools, I have had first-hand experience basically like working with young people and seeing the effects that arts can have on their development as people, their memory, the way that they approach other subjects, their confidence, even something as simple as their emotional well-being and mental well-being. Music and art allows them to express themselves in a way that is hasn't been possible or has been challenging in other subjects, and I see the effect that it has on young people who are struggling in school, and I've seen that development over the last 10 years. So I think that art is important in just general learning. Yeah, that's me, Mr. Ordon Allen. Thank you.
Mr. Allen, can I just ask you to tease out a little bit more about your own experience in school? It kind of chimes a bit with mine a little bit in terms of, you know, when you're when your behaviour might be viewed as challenging, you know, having something that's a little bit different outside of that can be really important. Did you have the opportunity to do that in your school, to engage with arts and cultural activity?
Yeah, well, of course. You know, I had a massive talent for it, and at that time schools were just becoming academies at that time. So with me having a massive interest and a massive talent in theatre and in music, it was almost like, I'll be real with you, like because of my behavior, like I was suspended, I was kicked out, I was on my last legs at school, basically. And the reason why I wasn't kicked out of school was because I knew how detrimental it would be for me not being able to be involved in those things. At that time, music technology was at its early stages. You know, there's studios in schools everywhere now. At that time, we were like one of 5 schools that had studios. And, you know, I just wanted to spend time in the studio. I just wanted to like work on beats. I just wanted to work on my lyrics. That was a chance for me to kind of show what I was capable of, because I was intelligent, but I would just be disruptive in class a lot, because I had, you know, just generally a lot of energy, and I was kind of, I'll be real with you, I was very like bored in class. So, you know, I'll give you an example. Science, I found particularly challenging, very challenging. But what I would do in class is actually the things that I found challenging, I would write lyrics about them. I would write lyrics, and then when it came to the exam or it came to assessments, I would just have to remember my lyrics. And that learning that process when I was in isolation actually literally helped me to get through school. I had the ability, I just was not using it. But then when I found that method, it made the process of school more fun, and it was enriching for me, but also enriching for the school as well.
Thanks, Ordon. Okay, I'm going to invite Andrew to share his views, thoughts, ideas. Andrew.
Not too dissimilar to Mr. Allen. Good morning, colleagues. My name's Andrew Fox. I am the Arts School Improvement Lead at BEP. I probably know many of you. Sadly, the schools I attended weren't arts-rich schools going back. They were rural schools. We didn't have arts organisations coming in to work with us. I don't even know if arts organisations existed back then. If they did, they weren't coming out to a field in Warwickshire to see me, that's for sure. But I don't feel that held me back in any way. As a would-be artist or creative, or indeed someone that's worked in education for a good few years now, 15 years. So after secondary school, I went on to do a degree in fine art, a master's in visual communication. And then I became a visual artist who actually made real money from commissions. And I still do that today. in my other days in the week when I'm not bepping and working with teachers and schools, and when there aren't pandemics. So it just got me thinking that something must have gone right in my education, even though it wasn't arts rich. And thinking about it, it's quite clear and it's quite simple. It's because the subject of art was available to me at school. It wasn't sidelined, it wasn't discouraged. It was seen as a valid thing to do. And I think more importantly, it was delivered by a really inspiring art teacher who was a fantastic mentor for me. And she supported and encouraged me and understood my needs as a visual learner. So, you know, rather like Mr. Allen, you know, the arts were a place for me to kind of group in, get into. Looking back, I wasn't particularly a great learner. I kind of like phased out when I saw numbers and text. So anything visual got me. So my art teacher understood this. Yeah, so big it up for the teachers is what I'm saying.
Thank you, Andrew. That's a really useful introduction. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to turn to the children in Busley Primary, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about your experience of arts in your school, and perhaps about yourselves as artists as well. So I don't mind which of you talks first, but could you tell us a little bit about how you feel about arts in your school and about whether arts are important to you personally?
So yeah, hello everybody. I'll just introduce you to my two young arts ambassadors who are very excited and nervous, who only got appointed into this position on Friday. So this is their first official arts ambassador role today. But I'll let them talk to you about themselves and what they feel about the arts in our school.
So in our school, we think that arts is really important because it can help us express who we are and what we're thinking and how we feel. And we think that it's a very good way for us to relax and it's really fun.
I think that art's important because a lot of people don't know how to be themselves, and art can help you express who you are.
We always do it in lots of different ways. Like a few projects we've done recently, we've been doing a project where we would put ourselves into a cereal box, which a lot of people liked. And we have a lot of clubs where you can do art, like singing club, drama club, and there's an art club for year 3 and 4. And we think that you can't do art wrong. Art comes in lots of different forms, and we like to embrace that in our school.
And I think that art is also important because when someone does art, someone can look at it and they think that it's terrible, but then another person can look at it and think that it's great. So everyone can think different things about it.
Well, thank you very much. That was an amazingly articulate introduction to art in your school. I'm interested to know whether you feel like artists yourselves. Do you feel like you have an art skill? Are you good at music or dance or drama or visual arts, or what do you think?
I feel like, yeah, some I'm not as good as, but a lot of them I think we are quite good at.
Excellent.
You're very good at drama club, aren't you, Lucy?
Yeah.
And
Super.
you're very good at drawing, aren't you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that really helpful introduction. So I'm going to move to Joe now for an introduction. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Felix, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. Just a little bit about me then. I've been a head teacher since about 2004. I'm very passionate about working in Birmingham. I think it's a fabulous city with so much opportunity and a wonderful cultural scene as well. The things that I wanted to say in terms of my belief about the arts in school, very much across a few areas. I think for me, it's about, you know, being the best school you can be and being the best school leaders that you can be. The arts and culture, for me particularly, are about giving all of our young people that place at the table, that knowledge and cultural capital that they need to succeed in life. I think, you know, we've talked about our own backgrounds a little. I've probably got a similar story to many of you and many of your children. And I think it's tough when you go out there into the world and you don't necessarily know some of the things that some people take for granted, whether it's how to play a game of tennis, whether it's to feel at home in a museum or art gallery, or whether it's to go to a cultural event. And I think what we can do with an arts and culture rich school is give our children the opportunity, as the children from Busley said, to be themselves, to have that chance for self-expression, but also the chance to learn. I think some of our young people, as you well know, won't necessarily have the language skills. And as Mr. Allen said, it doesn't mean that you're not really super intelligent. It's just that you don't always know how to express yourself. And I think when you engage in the arts and culture, through the sheer physicality and experience, you gain the life experiences, the skills, the ability to communicate, which will make you have that confidence regardless of the situation that you find yourself in. You know that you can cope, you know that you can succeed, but it might be in a slightly different way. And it's, you know, I often refer back to some of the SATs papers, for example, that we've had to work on with our year sixes. How else are they going to gain that skills, that knowledge of life, you know, that they may not physically be able to obtain themselves? There's a couple of other areas I just want to highlight briefly. I think working with the arts and culture sector affects our curriculum choice and the way we teach profoundly. I think that what the arts and culture can do is to help you look at your curriculum content and think about the choices you make in terms of your curriculum and how to deliver that in a much better way, in a much deeper and richer way that helps with your understanding. I think in terms of our teaching, it helps us think about how we teach. Are there better ways to teach? And are there ways where we can make our teaching more accessible to all of the children in our school and in our classes because of different ways of thinking about how we might deliver that content, or how we might give our children a voice in the ways that we deliver that content. And I think the final thing I want to say, which is something that's very dear to my heart, is I think that in our education system, we can become very regional in our identity. We're very much wedded, and it's not our fault, to the national curriculum and our assessment and accountability systems. But when you make a relationship with the arts and culture sector, they can challenge your thinking in a really good way, in a really positive way, if you make that relationship work, because they can help you with new ways of thinking and new perspectives that you won't have thought about because you're in the world of education. And, you know, it's often something that's very exciting and very enriching to you as a leader and as a teacher, because it gives you that opportunity to continue to learn and to think.
Thank you, Jo. That's a really helpful introduction. I really appreciate your summary there. And the audience, you'll notice that Alison is with us in person as well. So Alison, would you mind just briefly introducing yourself so people don't wonder why you're also in frame as well? And if you want to share a reflection on your own experiences, please be my guest.
Hello, I'm Alison. I'm the new programme manager for Birmingham Arts School, which is a completely new initiative, which we're hoping to share much more information with everybody very soon. On reflection, listening to people's reflections about their experience of arts education, I think mine was probably the same. Visual arts was very strong at my school, and like Andrew, I had a very inspiring teacher at secondary school who set me on the route to become a teacher of art and to what I'm doing now. But the things that I remember from school, when I look back, are the drama production that was involved in and the singing in the choir. And those are the things that stick in my mind. And so I think moving forward, that's the experiences that children need, the ones that will be with them long after they've left school, and the ones that can inspire them to go on to future arts activities, whether it's as a participant or whether it's as an audience member in the future. So yeah, probably similar experiences.
Thank you, Alison. it feels great to be in a room full of like-minded people, many of whom have had similar experiences, and to hear such a range of kind of passionate views about what education should be and how arts and creativity should be part of that. I think I'm just going to start the conversation by asking the question, really, are we trying to motivate learners to be good in an art skill, or are we encouraging the experience of learning being influenced by the pedagogy of creativity and arts practice? I think that's something that's coming through as a particular question at the moment. So Andrew, would you like to explore that a little bit, please?
Yeah, I think both, Felix, is my answer to that. I think a balance of both. I think one thing I notice in my kind of school improvement work is that I think the whole arts thing can become quite ambiguous. There's lots of big words like culture, arts, creativity, and when it actually comes down to it, and you're kind of working with schools and looking at what they're doing, you start to see how that kind of manifests itself. And I think, as I've mentioned, the strength for me in school that was quite frankly a lifeline was the art subjects. And I'm really pleased that Ofsted is in the right direction with schools that are encouraging that to happen, and we're having a big renaissance with primary art at the moment, which is fantastic. But also there's the experience and the feeling of, like Joe was discussing, talking about, and Alison, of being and working around culture and creativity has a different element, and I think they're both valuable. But I do like to kind of consider the two, because sometimes I feel the subjects get lost in the larger kind of arts mission statement, and I think they're both important, is what I'm saying, Felix. Okay. If that's a help.
It is helpful, thank you very much. Mr. Allen, in your school, where do you feel your skills are being employed? Are you teaching predominantly a skill that children need to be an expert in, or is it more about understanding the approach of education using creativity at the heart?
Well, in my school, we have quite a unique experience, and the unique experience that we have is that the music teacher, Louise Derrick, she works in the classroom and she does very curriculum-based stuff. I'm next door to her, and next door to her, I have a studio. I work there 2 days a week. I have a fully equipped studio, vocal production studio, beat production studio. And what actually happens is children get to have both of those experiences simultaneously. So while there are children in the classroom learning music, every hour or every lesson, she'll send young people in groups of 2, or sometimes bigger groups if we're doing podcasts, and they'll do 2 people will come out of that lesson and do a creative arts, something to do with creative arts, whether it be making a beat, whether it be doing lyrics, making a podcast, and that will contribute to what they're doing as part of the curriculum. At the same time, whilst those young people are in the studio with me, sometimes I will come into the classroom. The classroom has a Mac suite, and I will come and assist with music technology based stuff. When it's music theory stuff, she handles that. So what tends to happen is we both have very different experiences with the young people that cross over. So you might have a young person in class that's quite disruptive, messes about, doesn't do their work, they're not very focused, and they may come into the studio, and then, because I'm just working with them and another person, it gives them a chance to apply that focus. And when they apply that focus and they create something and see what they've created and are proud of what they're creating, because Miss, at the end of the lesson, will play whatever they've created in the studio to the rest of the class, they begin to see the relevance of the whole picture, and how what they enjoyed in the studio contributes to what they have to focus on in class. And you'll find that generally in the beginning of the year, when young people come, that are disruptive, that are not concentrating, that have other issues that are outside of school and outside of the classroom as to why they're behaving like that, you begin to see an improvement. You begin to see an improvement in confidence. You begin to see things like, if they're working with 3 people and they're working in a team to make a beat, you begin to see how disrupting somebody else's learning might affect them negatively, and that actually you can contribute to the benefit or the progression or evolution of the whole class. So I definitely agree with the point that both must be used simultaneously. Children should be able to do art in isolation and learn new skills, but at the same time, art should be infused within the classroom as well, because we all know that rhythm, it really helps with a lot more things than the eye can see.
Thank you. I think you've demonstrated the value of having an external practitioner, a creative practitioner in school as well. I'm going to extend this into a question for Joe around, and this is something that we in the culture sector need to be really on board with. What is the value in terms of your attainment and assessment criteria for OFSTED for arts in the school? Can you help to explore some of that, Joe?
Yeah, of course. I think in terms of OFSTED itself, for me, it would be across 2 key areas in particular, and not forgetting personal development. But in terms of OFSTED, I think you're thinking about leadership and really strong leadership, the culture and the ambition of your school. And I think the minute you start thinking about ambition and an ambitious vision and getting the staff to buy in to what you believe, then already I think you're moving towards a really strong leadership model in your school. And then obviously the key part is the quality of education itself. And I think when you look at the current OFSTED handbook and you're looking at those, you know, the best judgments, kind of good and outstanding, one of the key statements is about how you develop an ambitious vision using your curriculum for that knowledge and cultural capital, particularly for the disadvantaged and children with special educational needs. So you can already see by thinking about the arts and culture within your school, that's going to be critical to the sort of evaluation you might do of yourself using the OFSTED handbook. I mean, I think the point that both Mr. Allen and Andrew have made is critical. You're absolutely right. You want to make sure that you've got that rich curriculum that's well planned and sequential for the arts-based subjects like music, art and design, whatever it is. Those have got to be well planned, well sequenced and connected literally from the early years to year 6 and beyond. But then for me, you've also got that way of thinking about connecting with the arts and culture sector, and that way of thinking which makes you I suppose question your pedagogy, question your practices and think about different ways of delivering, which again are going to be critical if you're evaluating your provision against the OFSTED handbook.
Thank you, Joe. We've got a few minutes left. I'm going to turn to our young people in Busley who have told us they're in an arts-rich school environment, which is really, really exciting. So if I could just pick up with those young people again, and I'm just going to ask a question. Did you have an idea about what it would be like to not be in an art-rich school and what that might feel like for you? What do you think?
So I think that if we wasn't in an art-rich school, we wouldn't have as much freedom of the arts and we wouldn't be as experienced as some other art-rich schools if there wasn't any art in our school.
I think that if we didn't have art, then it would be boring.
So do you think being in art-rich school helps you to be a better learner?
Yeah.
Yeah? What kind of skills do you think it helps you to learn? What are you developing?
Well, it can help our well-being, and in the future it could also offer job positions. So and we can also communicate people using the arts, and we just find it overall, it's really fun to do.
And you can like learn how to cook lots of foods and do different languages.
That's brilliant, and it's really encouraging to hear that you're considering the possible careers that you can enter into in the arts as well. That's fantastic. So we are at the end of the time. We haven't had that opportunity to extend this conversation wider, but Alison and I are very much planning to bring up a series of seminars or events to bring people together and discuss what's important around arts and learning, particularly in Birmingham schools and with our culture sector. We're tasked to bring people together and to do this. We're looking forward to do it. So we'll be in touch with you with numerous invites to engage in this conversation. So please join in, support us, and we'll look forward to working with you in future. We'll have collected all your comments and questions, and many apologies that we haven't had the opportunity to bring them up here and answer those questions that you have. So just thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again. All the best. Have a lovely day.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.